One of the clearest, saddest, and most infuriating lessons of fascist government manipulation of what should be free markets can be found in the federal government's decades-long CAFÉ standards imposed on automakers. And wait till you see how one U.S. car company is scrambling to continue selling something customers love while trying to comply with federal diktats. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Ah yes, CAFÉ standards, the moniker for corporate average fuel economy edicts from, of course, the federal government. Conceived in 1975 and mandated in 1978 for passenger cars and 1979 for light trucks, the Carter-era commands not only start from an unsound premise, the immoral idea that politicians can tell people what to make and sell and tell consumers what they can and cannot buy, and not only are forced onto car makers via unconstitutional means, they also result in perverse, deadly consequences. Early in the mandate's history, economists, ambulance attendants, emergency room doctors, and people who lost loved ones could tell the bureaucrats that their demand for higher average fuel efficiency led automakers to use lighter metals for their smaller cars, resulting in more crash fatalities. About a decade after the initial imposition, Heritage Foundation writer William Laffer III noted the results of a study by Robert W. Crandall and John D. Graham in the Journal of Law and Economics. It was published in April of 1989 and read in part, quote, "This decline in vehicle weight reduces safety." Crandall and Graham explained that the negative relationship between weight and occupant fatality risk is one of the most secure findings in the safety literature. Today's cars have less steel in their frames and bodies to absorb the force of a collision. Furthermore, with their narrower wheelbases, they're more prone to turn over in an accident. The result: more accidents each year produce major injuries and deaths, end quote. And he added more, indicating not just correlation, but causation. Quote, Crandall and Graham estimate that the 500-pound decrease in vehicle weight caused by the current CAFÉ standard of 27.5 miles per gallon already has increased the number of occupant fatalities that will occur over the life of each model year's cars between 14% and 27%. This amounts to between 2,200 and 3,900 additional deaths per model year, spread out over the lifetime of the vehicle. Crandall and Graham also estimate that an additional 11,000 to 19,500 serious injuries are likely to occur over the life of each model year's cars because of the current CAFÉ standards, end quote. And more than a decade after that, Sam Kasman wrote for the Competitive Enterprise Institute, quote, "Then the National Academy of Sciences issued its report last August, and it found that CAFÉ kills between 1,300 and 2,600 people per year due to its constraining effect on producing larger cars. For a program that's been in effect for more than 2 decades, that's a huge number," end quote. And Kasman reiterates the key. Consumers consider numerous factors when deciding to purchase a car. Some might prefer fuel efficiency. Some might want performance. Some might consider performance to be hauling something, and some might consider it to be acceleration or road hugging and ride. Only through freedom, only by allowing our neighbors to make their own choices and allowing sellers to respond to those revealed preferences, can we see in the aggregate what is driving the increase or decrease of certain kinds of vehicle sales. But when the government imposes mandates, those choices are forbidden. They're crushed by the feudal lord, the kingpin of politics, claiming authority over everyone. Now we flash forward to 2024, and the coming 2025 car line from Ford, and a newly revealed dimension of how automakers scramble to conform to the federal commands and fines if they can't or won't comply, even as they try to maintain some of their most popular car lines. Eric Peters of the pro-liberty car analysis site Eric Peters Autos writes that Ford will continue to make its V8 Mustang GT, but it will be a specialty car at a high price. And it'll be the only way customers can get a stick shift for the Mustang, only with the V8. They will also sell other Mustangs, 4-cylinder Mustangs that are automatic. As Peters points out, this will allow Ford to continue to promote the Mustang as a muscle car, the GT V8, but the company will sell very few of those at a much higher price because they can't allow a larger proportion of their lower mileage cars to be sold on the market. And that is, of course, because doing so would run them afoul of the average fuel economy mandates from the feds. And then, of course, they'd get slammed by fines. Quote, Ford is apparently not going to jack up the price of the 2025 Mustang without the GT. That is to say, without the V8 that is standard equipment in the GT. The MSRP of the 4-cylinder turbo-powered EcoBoost 2025 Mustang will not be going up by $2,600. It will reportedly sticker for the same as the equivalent 2024 iteration. Why the disparity? End quote. Well, Peters offers the answer. The government, with its soft rewording for actions that actually are diktats from thugs, that, of course, they call administrators and agencies. The perverse change in Ford's Mustang line is a result of the CAFÉ standards and, of course, the threat of fines. Quote, simple. Ford has been given an incentive, which is a word much like administration in terms of the surface benignity and the underlying menace. They've been given an incentive to reduce the number of Mustang GTs. That's the V8 version that Ford sells. That so-called incentive takes the form of compliance costs imposed by the administration for not complying with their regulations. Another superficially benign word, much loved by the administration, precisely because the word doesn't sound as menacing as more direct, honest language. Specifically, those recently imposed by the administration that require, a more honest word, writes Eric, every car company to somehow get its entire roster of cars to average 50+ miles per gallon by less than 6 years from now, with fines for non-compliance imposed for just that. The V8 is also being incentivized out of reach for most buyers on account of its emissions of the boogeyman gas that does not cause or worsen air pollution, but which is numinously asserted to be causing the climate to change, end quote. When it comes to danger, it's the government that does not allow us to express our preferences, to allow us to weigh how concerned we are about safety versus efficiency and cost. They impose. That's all government ever does. Impose costs on us and demands on us and on others in the market, while sucking up our taxes and trying to hand out favors to, of course, a lot of fascist friends. As Eric Peters notes, if you run a car company and want to navigate the Byzantine government mandates, well, you have to be creative. Thus, quote, the difficulty for Ford is that a Mustang without a V8 is kind of like a beer without the alcohol. In order for the Mustang to retain its appeal, it must retain its image. And that means a V8 must at least be available. But if too many people buy a V8 Mustang, then Ford's fleet average fuel economy score is less because a V8 Mustang uses a lot more gas than a 4-cylinder Mustang. Solution? Sell fewer V8 GTs by making them progressively more expensive so that a diminishing number of people can afford to buy them. But hey, they're still available, so the Mustang's brawny image carries on. And that, so it is hoped, will be enough to get people to continue buying gelded Mustangs powered by 4-cylinder engines. End quote. As Taylor, the main character played by Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes, yelled inside the ape prison, "It's a madhouse! A madhouse!" And the CAFÉ standards, their mandates, are just one example of this madness. It's not normal, it's completely insane, and it comes from the minds of meddlers in DC. And it's long past time that they stop. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Rumble, where they don't censor us, where it's not a madhouse. And of course, you can find us on YouTube, where yes, they do censor us. Please double check that you're subscribed to YouTube. Sometimes they get dropped. They drop people off. I don't know why. And of course, you can always find us inside Facebook. The gang is always busy there. And on TikTok and on Instagram and on Twitter/X. And please visit the MRC-TV website. While you're there, check out the Media Research Center's new fundraising campaign, and you can contribute and help out. And of course, please spread the videos far and wide, and check out what the whole team is doing at MRCTV.org. If you want to find me, I'm on Gab as @GardnerGoldsmith, and I'm on Twitter/X as @GardGoldsmith. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Thanks to Eric Peters for doing great work and being so perceptive. For MRCTV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.
I want to invite you as my guest on a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, 7-day post-election cruise in the Caribbean. It's going to be a blast.